Welcome to Truth Behind Travel Podcast, a platform for tourism, travel, and hospitality professionals and enthusiasts to share, learn, and unlearn what we need to create better tourism, protect the environment, and become better humans. I'm your host, Dolores Semeraro, and every week I bring on the podcast the voices of those out there making a difference to learn the hard truth behind the world of travel and tourism, what works and what we can collectively do better. Welcome to Season 4, a series of conversations fully dedicated to women in travel, the trailblazers, the visionaries who have been and continue to be the force for good we need to hear more from. Joining us on the show, I am thrilled to welcome Truth Behind Travel podcast sponsor, Women Travel Leaders. Women Travel Leaders is a community that supports high-performing, purpose-driven travel business leaders to grow their business in less time by fostering a community of heart-led leaders who prioritize authenticity and impact above all else. Are you ready to start thriving in your travel business and your life through connecting with a powerful community that truly has your back? Well, head over to the show notes and on the link, mention Dolores in the referral name to first access when applications open and receive 25% off your first year of membership. Welcome back to Truth Behind Travel podcast with the second part of Season 4 after a long summer break. We're back with the show with more conversations on often unspoken truth on tourism, travel, and hospitality, with leading women experts in their fields, thought leaders sharing their experiences, insights, and guidance. My guest speaker today is someone that has collected, reported, and shared travel stories with millions of people along her journey in travel journalism as a reporter and travel expert. Her solid reputation speaks for itself when she's in the room, and her positive energy and smile has always made sure she would be remembered, whether you would see her reporting on TV, speaking on stage, or sharing travel wisdom on her social platforms. Let's welcome BBC travel journalist, international speaker, and travel expert, Carmen Roberts. Welcome back to the show. Today, I am beyond excited to have on Truth Behind Travel podcast a travel expert, a media personality in the travel and tourism sphere, a person that I've met in my probably early days of hospitality and tourism back in China during the Olympic Games of Beijing 2008. It left such a mark that I decided never to leave the industry and one day to meet her. We haven't met yet in person, but we're working on that. Welcome, Carmen Roberts, to Truth Behind Travel podcast.
Hi, Dolores. It was so great to meet you back in 2008 in the Beijing Olympics. And I'm so glad that we've been able to connect a few times since then, online at least.
You've worked in the travel industry from a communication and media perspective around the world, really. And I've always been a great follower of your work and a great admirer, not just because of the places you got to visit and the stories you were able to share, but the tone of voice, the authenticity, that sense of genuinity, that tone of voice that was really fresh, was not staged, it was really coming from a place of passion rather than a workplace, so to speak. Just walk us through your story and where you are today.
Sure. Well, I'm most known for my work on the travel show on the BBC, but that show in itself has evolved. It's first started off in different guises in 20 years ago almost. And it's really changed because the way people consume travel media has changed. We don't need to know how to get to places, where to stay. I think the traveler today is far more sophisticated. So I myself moved to Asia 15 years ago. So I was there for 11 years, and then I've come back to the UK a couple of years ago, and I found that the media landscape has totally changed. Travel programs on TV and online are celebrity-led, or they are reality TV type situations like Race Around the World. So that's on the traditional media. And of course, we've seen a huge explosion of user-generated content. So people on YouTube, and that's been absolutely fascinating as well. So I've also evolved in that space. So I still do my traditional TV work. I still do some writing. I do some content creation because I love using my media skills in the creative space for content creation. So I found that side really rewarding as well. And I've also started my own travel business where I can help people book their holidays as well, because inevitably that's what people ask me to do.
And this is what brings me to one question that I had prepared for this podcast. And I think it's something very much related to this evolution of how do we tell the story? How do we develop storytelling in the digital space now that the DIY, the user generated content, the travel writer turned into a content creator. I mean, this word alone, content creator, which became a job for many actually, and quite a ludicrous one. I wonder if that space is regulated enough, because at the moment the tourism levels are already above and beyond the pre-COVID times, and people love to look at those numbers to say we have reclaimed our spot, top 10 most visited destinations and so, and we are in Europe, which obviously has a lot of that case. What we notice is bad behavior of tourists, especially in moments of, high season, peak season. However, I would argue, and I would like to discuss with you, whether that so-called bad behavior, does it come from a place of wanting to emulate and wanting to follow what I've seen online, what people are seeing on social media? So in other words, is this DIY self-generated content space of content creator regulated enough to make sure that the media creator per se don't generate by consequence, a bad behavior of tourists?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And there's so many layers to this situation, because I think travelers really want authenticity. And particularly since COVID, the price of travel has increased. And so people want value for money. So you want to go to a destination and you want to know that you are getting the most out of a destination. And you're right, it's really difficult to regulate the user-generated influencer content creation industry. It's really, really difficult. And it's that balance. You want authenticity, you want to hear from different voices, from different people of all ages, sizes, shapes, cultures. You want to hear their experience. But inevitably, you want to get the best out of a destination. So people will always see, oh, this is the best picture that you can get. This is the most picturesque destination, picturesque beauty spot that you must visit. So everyone goes to that same beauty spot, and then it becomes overcrowded, and the locals get really annoyed because there's too many people there and there's no one else at another beautiful spot a kilometer down the road. So it's a real balance. And as you say, it's difficult to regulate. But I think also the onus belongs to the tourism board, the local authorities as well, to try and help guide people, control the flow of traffic. That's probably a really formal way of putting it. But you've got to have processes in place, which I can imagine is really quite tricky from a destination's point of view, particularly when you see online so many beautiful images and everyone wants to get that exact photo opportunity at the Trevi Fountain, or whether you're in Santorini, you want to be standing on the top of the white village in your flowing dress, getting that picture. Yeah, it's a real problem, and it's a difficult balance to strike.
Have you ever found yourself engaged or hired or contracted for a job related to promoting a certain place? Let's call it like that. Some people don't like the word destination, but let's say a place, and actually failed to receive a proper brief.
Yeah. So there is often a brief, but sometimes there's a balance as well that the destination needs to strike with the creators, because you don't want to be so specific to tame their voice. You want their personality to come through, because that's why you have hired them or brought them to your destination. So it is really difficult. And maybe you need to go back a few steps, and in your choice of creator, who look at their content that they put out, and is this the voice that you want for your destination? So maybe there's that, because I know a lot of creators feel stifled if they have too much direction, too many stipulations and requirements that they need to hit. But also, you do need guidelines. I do agree.
The thing is, when these creators are contacted by a destination management board, we often just look at the numbers, their reach, their followers, what will be that of return on visibility that creator can give. We don't enough look into what kind of range of travelers that creator speaks to ensure that it is aligned with the destination strategy to begin with. And in many cases, I've seen plenty of cliche content created and still going viral. So you mentioned earlier that there has been a shift in the way people consume travel content. And I mean, this word consume, that already puts me on the alert. Like, are we actually just consuming travel content? What do you see from your side?
Yes, it's such a complex issue, isn't it? I can think of one really good example of a very well-known tourist board who I won't mention, but I know they will only look at certain creators with big numbers. So we're looking in the at least three figures of followers. Um, and this in itself could be a problem. While it's great, you want to see your return on investment, but you need to look at the quality of those followers. And that same destination a few years ago, not that many years ago, had engaged these influencers or content creators, and it created a real problem and friction on the ground with the local community, because they weren't always respectful. And in their quest to get that perfect shot, it caused a lot of disruption on the ground, and then gave content creators a bad name, which is it's really difficult. And I can see it from the content creators side as well, because you want to do a good job. You want to get the most number of views. You want to get the most amount of engagement, and you know the shots that will do it. So it's a real balance that you've got to strike, and it's difficult.
From a content creator point of view, there's a lot of responsibility at stake. If you cultivate over the years, over time, an audience that truly trusts you, trusts your opinion, your voice, what you do, what you share, that sense of responsibility can give a lot of pressure on the type of work that you put forward and how to achieve quality in that work. So at some point, some creators, they stop at nothing. They create the ground base for what could potentially become later on really bad tourism, because they need to strike, they need to get the impossible shot, they need to get that content that goes viral. So I wonder who plays the game of blame. Do we blame the creator, or do we blame the destination not giving them a proper brief, or we blame the audience not able to understand what is proper, what is safe, what is suitable? And one of the images that really shocked me, and recently I saw that online, one of the trends, of course, of this year is this wellness and well-being type of travel, and people are seeking spirituality as a new sense of achieved well-being. And that spirituality is often sort of packaged in a nice so-called retreat, most likely in destinations like Bali, in Indonesia, and that often goes into that kind of photo where people are, I don't know, being blessed, being showered with flowers or water or so. And the it's called cultural immersion for some, because in the tourism and travel, we love to give names and to categorize and to define every single type of travel. Every move has a definition. We love definitions in the tourism industry. So cultural immersion is actually a way of saying cultural appropriation, because these traits that are authentic and real and perhaps should stay within the local community are instead used to attract travelers. And in this case, we fail to protect the local cultures as such. So because we spread a narrative that invites people, that makes them feel allowed, that they can do that. So when it comes to cultural appropriation, who do you think really owns the narrative? It's the destination, or the local community, or is the narrator?
I think it's definitely the local community. And this is a, I don't want to say the word problem, but this is what happens. You know, people come in, they want to be seen to be having a local spiritual experience. They want to be seen to be immersing themselves. But to be fair, they're really only there for a week, and they're getting the obligatory blessing. It is difficult. And then they might not have had that deep and meaningful conversation with a local person. So whether it be a language barrier, it might have been a time constraint, or they might not have had the access. I think audiences now are becoming more aware of this. I think people are becoming more savvy. They realize that this is what is happening. So I would hope that they might be taking this cultural appropriation with a grain of salt, because they'll realize that Mary from the UK has gone to Bali for a week, and this is her experience. She's not really becoming immersed in the culture, because you can't in a week. So I think audiences from that perspective are becoming a bit more savvy about this. But what we really need to be able to do is to have better lines of communication with local people. So, for instance, I did a trek with Intrepid Travel in Nepal, and it was a women-only experience, and it was fantastic. So all the guides, all the porters, everyone on the trip was female and local. And we really got to, you know, we were 3 days in the mountains, hiking with these porters, with these guides, and we really learned a lot about them. We were able to hear about their home lives, how difficult it was to begin their guiding journey, for instance, how it's difficult to do that if you're a woman in Nepal. So that was an experience that really stayed with me, because it was authentic. It was local. I was speaking with local people. I was walking next to these women for 6 hours a day. So it was wonderful. But not everyone gets that experience. Not every influencer, not every content creator will have that experience.
So we're moving towards a more of an entrepreneurial era of content generation, or message generation, where we have to create. How about we do a challenge for the rest of the podcast? We do not use the word content anymore.
Okay.
I'm just joking. But the idea is that when we tell a story, when we share something we learn, something, for example, that you've learned out of your trip in Nepal, and you report that under the shape of a video, an article on the blog, perhaps an interview on a podcast like this one, for example, you are sharing a story. You are telling a story that you have lived through an authentic experience. And some may argue that the moment we are portraying too much the authentic experiences, the authenticity of the experience per se gets lost, because more people get to know what is an authentic experience. Is it something that few people do? Is that something that few people have access to? If 100,000 people have access to one experience, can that be considered still authentic? So the parameter of authenticity are sort of like a work in progress as we develop the narrative of the future of travel. So let's go back to your story and the hike that you've done. You've shared videos, you've shared your experience, you've shared behind the scenes clips, which was very interesting. And without a doubt, you must have put Nepal on the bucket list of at least thousands of people. Do you feel that? Are you aware of that when you put content out? Because then that really, brings me to my next question, which is related to how does authentic storytelling gets affected by, the volume of it?
Yeah, that is really, really a great question, Dolores. Authenticity is so different for many people. Stories can get diluted. That is so true. I really do think, though, it all boils down to your interaction with a local person. I think that is really what can make or break your holiday, your trip. If you're Joe Public going on holiday, it's not always the five-star hotel room that you'll remember or the Michelin star meal that you ate. Often it's the interaction you had with your taxi driver who told you a bit about his home life or, spoke to you about his children and how they were also similar age to your children. It's little things like that, even that might not be you're walking with a Nepalese guide. It could be something as simple as just meeting a local person. And I think that's what storytellers really need to hone in on a bit more. And I think that's definitely nowadays, travelers are more discerning, and that's what they're looking for. They're looking for a bit of authenticity, a glimpse into the local life, what life is really like at a destination that they're visiting. Of course, there'll be people that just want to fly and flop, go to a hotel and lie on the beach. But I think, particularly since COVID, when travel's become more expensive, you want to make sure you're getting more bang for your buck. If you're going to a destination, you want to know you've experienced it on a different level.
Even if that means that you are replicating a range of a list of things that hundreds of thousands of people have done behind you, does that make it less special?
No, I don't think it does. I think it's nice to have it. It's good to be able to have that list. Oh, this is what was recommended. But I think you can always take away your own experience from that. You might have spoken to the local ice cream seller at that really touristy hotspot, and he might have explained to you that, this is too touristy. You should try come back at this time or go around the corner, and this is great. I think people do play the imitation game, definitely. And if you look back over the years, that's how we've done it for so many years. You had it in your guidebook. This is what the Lonely Planet said, I needed to go here, so this is where I will go. But I think at the end of the day, what people remember is when they talk to a local person, that their interaction, that can often make it a standout experience and give you that added authenticity.
Have you ever felt in one of your personal experiences, perhaps, from when you have your professional hat on, that a story or something that has happened to you in that specific moment with a local person, have you ever felt that this wasn't for sharing? Like a moment where you felt, well, this is great, but I won't share it so that it stays sort of like from a protective point of view?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And often it's an emotional connection or something that maybe made you cry and you don't want to share it. Of course, people share everything these days, right?
That's
That
right.
might be. I, I maybe need to share more. But yeah, there's always that something that you do want to hold back, or that local place in Japan when I lived there for 8 years, I might not want to share online. There's always some kind of little local, authentic piece of a destination that you might not want to share. But I think nowadays everyone is an oversharer.
Absolutely. Totally agree. This is something that I'm trying to come away from, even in my own approach to social media. The way we utilize these tools is directly affecting the way we perceive, always within the tourism and travel sphere, the way we perceive things that we need to do, things that we need to see, places there where we need to eat. And that goes beyond our personal preferences, because we tend to conform. And this idea of having to conform to what works, to what is on trend, to what is going on at the moment, is damaging the reputation of many places around the world, to the point that, we've heard it quite a few times, locals rioting and protesting in the streets against tourists. And I wonder if it really is a tourist responsibility, because at the end, they are almost the symptom of a real cause. And the real cause starts where the destination management reputation fails to take control, or to be in control, really. Have you found yourself in a situation where the story that was told wasn't actually depicting the reality of things?
Definitely. There's so many places that you go that you have a certain perception that you've seen online, you've seen in magazines or photographs, and then you get there and you think, oh, no, this is not what I thought it would be. You can't help but be not brainwashed, but this is the certain expectation that you think a destination is, and it might not always be that. So that is really interesting. But also, it's tourist boards as well. The the fortunes of a country or destination are valued by how much money they bring in, how much the tourism dollar is worth. So many destinations, countries, cities, places will always say, we brought in X number of tourist dollars. And that's how it is celebrated. Whereas I often say, in an ideal world, what would be a true indication of a place's wealth is how well the locals live around this destination. Do they have quality of life? Are they able to live in their homes without, a lot of people in Venice can't live in their homes during the peak season. They don't want to. They feel they've been driven out, priced out even. So it's a vicious circle, and it's difficult to undo.
When you look at the different narratives that destinations are trying to promote, like whether it is come any time of the year, or specifically in certain seasons, or trying to appeal to different type of tourism, for example, sports tourism, wellness tourism, cultural tourism, you name it. Some destinations don't even make the distinction. They just say, come, whatever you want to do, just come. At the end of the day, I think of how everyone now is a tiny reporter in a way. This user-generated content that you mentioned, it's been on, and it's been growing and growing, even into his own profession, so to speak. So everyone can create content, share an experience, and even go viral if that's really what they're after. So if they can do it, if the destination can do it, if the proper media can do it, and the audience is just there to consume from left, right, and center, whose responsibility is now, like, where does that responsibility lies? Because at the end of the day, we're only just talking about the symptoms of tourism, and in many cases, the bad symptoms. So where is the responsibility of storytelling when it comes to showcasing a place, an experience, an activity, or some sort?
That's a great question. And I think ultimately it lies with the destination. But you see a lot of destinations not wanting to promote certain local voices because it'll ruin the perception or come across wrong, or their English isn't good enough, they're not well spoken. It's a lot. I see that a lot. I see a lot of public relations companies or destinations. You can only talk to the media if you're X, Y, and Z, if you pass this English test, or, you look a certain way. And that can be damaging. I get it. I get you don't want to put any fool on TV or give them a platform, but still it's difficult when you sanitize these local voices, and that is often difficult. But it ultimately, I do think does the onus does fall on the destination itself, or the governments, or the bodies that are controlling the tourism.
And it's not just the tourism destination management board or the tourism office, so to speak. It's the stakeholders. It's the entire leading community of a destination. And so I would say, instead of just thinking, if anything, out of this podcast episode, we think about destination positioning. Let's not just think strategy. Let's not just think marketing. Let's think broader. Whatever the traveler witnessed during the travel, it's what goes on the social media. It's what gets perpetuated, snapped on, with a phone or anything. And in time, that's what creates a reputation of a destination. So I think to add on to you is really the responsibility of everybody in the destination, from the road cleaners to the people sitting in the mayor's office, I believe. And then some destinations do it better than others. That's true. But lastly, I know you've traveled a lot and you've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of many, many destinations. Where have you seen the good? Tell me, out of your experience, which destination really nails it?
There's a lot that are trying to do. Destinations are really trying to give the local, authentic voice. I see New Zealand, their 100% pure campaign was excellent. They included the Maori Indigenous voices. New Zealand is not easy to manage, I would say, from a destination point of view. I think that they've done a great job with that 100% pure campaign. Bhutan's done a great job. They've also limited the number of tourists that come through. So this has been quite helpful in their campaign as well. But if everyone did the same thing, the world would be a bit not as an exciting a place, I think. So in that way, these different quirks of different destinations do make it different and interesting for travelers.
We are living in an ever-changing world in the media landscape, and the responsibility of how the message is portrayed is now not only on the media platforms, but on everyone's shoulder, because the content is user generated, right? So if you were to, as an expert in the field, a world traveler, a person that is passionate about sharing truthful messages and also stories that are relevant to people, because only when something is relevant, you connect, you start to care. When it's not relevant to you, you don't care, you don't really relate. And in terms of what we're seeing today, if you were to leave a word of wisdom to those starting off a career in travel media nowadays, what would be your best recommendation?
I think that's a great sentiment to end on. I think particularly in today's media space where everyone has a voice, it's great that so many different people are able to have a voice, but use it responsibly. So be mindful that you're not going to create some sort of chaos on the ground or perpetuate a stereotype. Try and go beyond that viral photograph. Go beyond and speak to some local people. I think that really the onus is on everyone these days to try and give an accurate picture, give an accurate description of your experience in a destination, so that onus doesn't just fall on the media platforms or the media organizations or the governments anymore. It also falls down to travelers, to influencers, to the average tourist. Even the average tourist will be telling their friends about their experience, and you also have a responsibility.
And on that responsibility, I would invite everyone that wants to sort of deepen this conversation, perhaps even have a new conversation with Carmen, to head over to the show notes of the podcast, where Carmen's contact details will be, particularly her social platforms and their website. Don't come with a question, where would you recommend me to go on the next holiday? or you do if you want to have, a fantastic itinerary draft up. But at the same time, I think the expertise and the authenticity that you, Carmen, bring into the work that you put out every day, not content, it's work. It's your work, it's your voice, it comes from your experience, it's valuable. It's something that I encourage everyone to take a look, to take notice of, and to be inspired of, as it inspires me every day. So thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us today on the podcast. So, what are your thoughts about today's episode? We spoke about the responsibility in travel content creation, the good and the bad of the narrative management for tourism destination, and who owns really the story of a destination in this digital era we're all living in. I realize I actually literally drilled Carmen with so many questions, and I hope she forgives me. But so many more will be asked in the coming episodes of Truth Behind Travel podcast, and I hope to have you along this journey with me. Don't forget to let me know your thoughts and feedback anytime. Reach out on social media or directly via email on my website, DoloresSemeraro.com. And I will see you soon on the next episode of Truth Behind Travel podcast.